Hey Keith, do you want a lav or a mic?
Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody tonight. And as you can see, Pastor Don isn't here tonight. But him and Miss Kim have gone off for the week, and I guess to get a little bit of rest in before all the activities start this summer. We've got a lot of things going on. He also wanted me to let you know that we will not be having any church services on Sunday night. So I just want you to go ahead and be prepared for that. And this coming Sunday night? Yeah. So, but I just want to let you know that. Let's go ahead and open up in prayer, and then we'll sing a couple of songs. Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, again, we do thank you for your love towards us, dear God. And while we were yet sinners, you died for us. We thank you for this church. As we look at, we may be slim in numbers tonight, but we are blessed that you have put us here, dear God. We just thank you for loving us so much. We just ask that you watch over this time that we have together and lead, guide, and direct. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So if you will stand, we're going to do hymn 217, Oh, How I Love Jesus. Okay. And I hope y'all know the verses, because I don't. To 320, turn your eyes upon Jesus. There's light for Thank you, Carla. If you would, go ahead and turn to the book of Luke, chapter 15. This kind of goes along with what we did this weekend. Not sure, we don't usually promote a lot of different movies or anything, but a couple of weekends ago, me and Tammy had a chance to go and see a film. Don't know if anybody ever heard of the Small Bone family? Small Bone family? Anybody ever heard of Rebecca St. James? She was a popular Rebecca St. James. She was a contemporary singer back in probably the 80s. She's still around. How about for King and Country? Have you ever heard of them? Okay. They are the Small Bone family. That's their last name, Smallbone, and they're from Australia, and it's a movie about their life, and it's when they was in Australia, they were doing pretty well off, but during his dad was a concert promoter, and Tom's the recession happened about that time, and he lost everything. And it tells the story about them coming to the U.S. with the only thing that they had was what they could get in, I think they had maybe 10 or 12 suitcases. And it was, how many kids was there? Six, one on the way, and the mom and dad. So it's a very good film. If you get a chance to go to it, it's it'll pull on your emotions a whole lot. So, and Tammy later took our daughter and son to see it, and they both. Did Caitlin ask Caleb if he cried?
Caleb said I was crying in my head, my brain.
Oh, crying. Yeah. So this is, of course, we know this is the parable of the lost son or the prodigal son, but it's also the story of homecoming. So. We just celebrated homecoming. What does homecoming mean to you? Does anybody think what homecoming means to them? Family? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Is homecoming something you look forward to? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything in specific that you like about homecoming? Food? Yeah. That's a good one, yeah. Do you have any good memories of homecoming?
Yeah, just spending time with family and friends.
Family and friends, yep. You have any bad memories of homecoming? Yeah, I've got one bad memory of homecoming. And most of you were probably brought up in the same time that I was, but when we would have homecoming, we had a picnic table out on the ground, and our picnic table was probably as long as this wall, and so everybody would, of course, bring food, so we'd have our morning service, and the church I grew up in, we had a lot of pastors who were from the seminary, and there they would come and they would serve at our church, and most of them would stay about 3 or 4 years. They'd graduate, they may stay another year, and then they would be called somewhere else. And so we had quite a few pastors to pull from on homecoming day. They would usually invite somebody who had been there before. And so we'd have, preaching in the morning and some singing, and, we'd have, of course, Sunday school. And then after the preaching, we'd have lunch, and so, as kids, we would get to playing. And then in the afternoon, we'd have singing on the ground, which would always be usually in the church. I don't know if y'all had that too in your homecoming, but we would have an afternoon of singing, and it would last anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. So this one homecoming, I can remember that me and my brother, my brother was 5 years older, and I can remember a couple of my cousins and a few of my friends, after lunch, we was out there, of course, playing ball. And of course, they started calling for us to go inside for the singing. And so I can remember we asked our uncle, who was my cousin's dad, and said, we don't want to go singing. We want to stay out here and play ball. Is that okay? And he said it was okay. Oh, so, we had a grand old time until we got home. Yeah, and my dad called me and my brother both into the bedroom, and that's the very last whooping I remember getting from my dad. I don't remember getting many from him, but we had overstepped the line, and guess what? The next year we didn't ask to play ball during homecoming. I remembered that. And I never played ball after that on homecoming day. So, but if you would, let's look at these verses. We'll start at verse 11 and read through 32. And I'm going to use my phone because when my Bible up here, the stand keeps falling. Then he said, let me make sure I'm on New King James. Yeah. Then he said, a certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me. So he divided to them his livelihood. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his possessions with prodigal living. But when he had spent all, there arose a severe famine in the land, and he began to be in want. Then he went and he joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into the fields to feed swine. And he would gladly have filled his stomach with the pods that the swine ate, but no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. And he arose and he came to his father. But when he was still a great ways off, his father saw him and had compassion. And he ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to the servant, Bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet. And bring the fatted calf here and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found, and they began to be merry. Now his older son was in the field, and as he came and drew near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, Your brother has come, and because he has received him safe and sound, your father has killed the fatted calf. And he was angry and would not go in. Therefore his father came out and pleaded with him. So he answered and said to his father, Lo, these many years I have been serving you. I never transgressed your commandment at any time, and yet you never gave me a young goat that I might be merry with my friends. But as soon as this son of yours came, who has devoured your livelihood with harlots, you killed the fatted calf for him. And he said to him, Son, you are always with me, and all that I have is yours. It was right that we should be merry and be glad, for your brother was dead and is alive again, and he was lost and is found. So we know this story. We've heard this story many, many times, but I thought we would just go back over it a little bit with. Have you ever in your life been dissatisfied with where you are in life? And we can say at any time in our life we've been in that same situation. Well, the younger son is looking around at all these other people. We do that. We look at how other people act, what they're doing, and we think, man, what's that saying? The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. And he became dissatisfied with his own live. We get in a lot of trouble when we start comparing ourselves with other people. Because most of the time when we look at other people, we only see the good and the fun things that they do. And then when we look at our own life, a whole lot of times we look only at the worst part, or the trial or the tribulation that we're currently in. What was that song back in the 80s? It was rose-colored glasses. We we only look at the things we want to look at others. So, in some of the worst places we look at these things are on social media. You don't see too many people posting really bad stuff that's going on in their life. They don't post that they're depressed. They're, they may be having trouble paying their bills. They may be having, this issue. They're always posting those good, fun things they're doing. The trips they're going on, the times that they're spending with family or friends, or something new that they've got. And so it can make a person green with envy when we look at those things. And also, how many times do we make very hasty decisions when especially when we're in tough times? It's real easy to think, I got to do something. We got to get out of this right now. And there are times when we need to have a quick decision, but there's other times when we need to sit down and think it through. And something that we don't really do enough of is pray it through and wait for an answer. It's really hard in our time to be patient in the things that we do, because we think it needs to be done right now. Yeah, and sometimes we get ahead of God in what He thinks. And so we see the son has made a hasty decision. He didn't think any of this stuff through. He took his father's life savings, and it said in a short time, he blew it. He threw it all away. And isn't that how it is that we can, even as we get older, if you're trying to save, if you're trying to do something, it don't take what took you a long time to save up, it don't take long to blow through it. It can be one health issue, or it could be, anything that can go through it. So we see that the son had a good time, but only for a short period of time. And we see that his good time turned to a hard time. And that's the other thing is, when we don't think things through, even though he made that decision and he was having a good time, he didn't realize what was just around the corner. Hard times were coming. He thought that money was going to last him for a long time, and it ended up only lasting him a short time. But we see that he made a decision, okay, which is, so the first point was he was dissatisfied with his life. So the second thing was he made a decision to change it. So we see in verse 17, it says, but when he came to himself, remember when we was younger, we would that would have been called learned your lesson, okay, or come to your senses, and so he had to hit rock bottom, or as far as he thought he could land. For a Jewish kid to having to feed pigs, that was probably about as low as you could get. So. But he found out things again. He started looking at before he looked around and saw that he thought the grass was greener elsewhere. But this time not only did he look but he remembered that where he came from and the times were better. Okay? He remembered how his dad acted and how his dad provided, not just for him, but for the servants. His dad was a giving man. It didn't say that his dad put up much of a fight when the son asked for his inheritance. He gave it to him pretty freely. Aren't we glad that God doesn't give to us too quickly the things we ask for? Because a whole lot of times the things we ask for aren't what He wants for us. And if He gave it to us, it could turn into a really bad situation. Now, it's kind of like when I worked with a guy for years, and I'm a drafter, and so we draw, and when I first started, we used to draw on a board, with straight edges and stuff. And, after a few years, it moved to computers and then faster computers and that. Well, this guy, he had been on the board. He was several years older than I was, and he always longed to go back to drawing on the board. And he loved to remember the good old days. When we look at the good old days, what do we remember? Most of the time we remember the good parts of the good old days. And we don't necessarily look at all the bad that may have happened in our life. Now, there's some that may look and remember the bad because it may have been they may not have very much good in their life. But we know that the son looked back and he remembered the good, not just in his life, but the good in his father. So, and he knew that his father was a compassionate man, because if he wouldn't have thought he'd been compassionate, he wouldn't have thought of going back home. And he knew that his father wouldn't hold it against him. That's something. Do we, with our kids, when they do something wrong, do we hold it against them for a long time? Or a spouse, do we hold it against them when we use that as a stone in our pocket to throw back at them when they wronged us? So, but we saw also that he made a good, strong, convincing statement he was going to tell his father. Let me get back to that one, and it was said, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants." I mean, he really went to the core of what happened, didn't it? So, but how often do we make really good statements and then just leave it there? What would have happened if the son, that's as far as he went? He knew that it was better as his father's. He knew what he was going to tell him when he got there. But what if that's all he did? He would have still been in that pig pen, feeding pigs, knowing that there was a better place for him. So what did he have to do? The third point, he had to humble himself and then follow through. That may be the hardest part of all of this, is to humble ourselves. How many times do we like to admit when we make a mistake? When we think we know more than somebody older and wiser than we do. I know that most of y'all have had teenagers, and we only have the one teenager and two more coming up, but sometimes when we try to tell her stuff, it's like talking to that wall sometimes. It bounces off. They know more than we do, and I can remember that too. You've heard that saying, and I was the same way. I thought my father was the dumbest man on the face of the earth when I was in my teenage years, but I was amazed at how smart he become when I got to be in my 20s. It wasn't that he changed; it was that I changed my opinion and started listening to him. So a statement alone doesn't do any good. We can talk all we want to. We can say the right things, but if we don't do it and put feet on it, it doesn't do him any good. He would still been in the muck and with the pigs, smelling like pigs. Have y'all ever been around pigs? They're about one of the worst smelling farm animals that you can have, and that stench don't go away with a shower, and it takes a while to go away. So I'm sure when he went home, he still smelled like pigs. But if he would have just he could have had a very good feeling about it. I've got a plan. I got a statement. I know what I want to do. He probably felt pretty good right then. But like I said, if he wouldn't have humbled himself and went home, that good feeling would have went away really, really quickly. So we see that, and that's where the homecoming part is. And you know, I'm not going to go over much of the rest. We're going to stop and pray, but we see that he went home, and his dad was waiting on him. Didn't say that he waited. He got to the door and knocked. Said his dad saw him when he was far off, so we know that he had to be looking for him or hoping for him. He had a feeling that maybe that was the day he was coming home. Yeah. You know, the church I grew up in is in rural Orange County, and unfortunately they have homecoming the same weekend that we have homecoming here. So it's been a long time since I've been back to my home church, and you know, we always call that your where you grew up, your home church, and so I can remember for several years we would go back once in a while, and Tammy didn't grow up there. She moved here when she was there for teaching, but I grew up with, you know, a whole lot of these people, and when I went home, back to my home church, it was always a good feeling because I saw a lot of faces that I knew, faces that were helped influence me as I grew up, but I also saw a lot of empty spaces of people who had influenced me that were no longer there. Last time I went, I didn't know hardly. It was probably less than a fourth of the people there, probably, that I knew very well. So it was a different feeling. But we know here the son knew who he was going home to. He was going home to a father who loved him, going home to a brother who may not like him, but knew who he was, and probably even servants that he got along with. And the father didn't hold anything back. You know, that's the best illustration of God. We've sinned against him. We've you know, the talents, everything that he's given us, we've wasted. But yet, when we came back to him for salvation, he didn't hold anything back. And that's, you know, that's the illustration of God, how he loves. Unconditional. We don't understand that because we always, as much as we try, even with kids, we have a limit that if they pass that, it might be hard for us to forgive them of that sin. But we know that he will forgive us if we go to him. So I'm going to stop there. We're going to pray, and then we're going to break up into a couple of smaller groups, however you feel like breaking up, and then we're going to fill out a couple of cards and pray for some people in our church. Okay. Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, I do thank you that you do love us and you do welcome us back with open arms. I again thank you for this church, for where you have placed it. You have it here for a reason, dear God. You have us here to reach out to this community, to reach out to our neighborhoods that we live in, to the family that we have, dear God. And we just pray that you will help us to be able to share what you have done in our lives. And I do pray for our pastor and Miss Kim. Just ask that you watch over them as they are away for a few days. Help them to relax and rest. And we know there's a lot of activities coming up here in our summer months, and we just pray that you'll be in everything that we do, dear God. So again.